Okay, first off, my name is Brent, and I am making this video in response to Monty, so we will call this my Monty response video. This is my first video, so I am not a video maker, but there were a lot of issues raised in the last chatty-do, and I felt it important enough to respond. So this is my response. It seemed like there were a lot of issues that were raised, and Monty really bounced around a lot. So I'm going to kind of take a lot of those and kind of rearrange the order in order to try to answer and address those and kind of make sense of them. The one thing that I really like about Monty's videos, though, is that he doesn't give you all the answers that you are looking for. He doesn't tell you what you want to hear, and he challenges your thinking, and I like that. I don't want somebody to tell me everything is all great or rosy, or that everything is exactly what I already believe. I don't want somebody just to echo my thought patterns. I want somebody to challenge my thoughts, and I want to be forced to look under the hood. So I appreciate that. There were some, the video before, there were some ideas presented that made me feel rather uncomfortable, and they really made me to think quite a bit, and I really did appreciate that. So I wanted to thank you for that. I don't particularly consider myself a conservative or a liberal or a libertarian, or seems to be the in vogue term these days. I kind of an amalgamation of a little bit of everything, and I like Roy Potter. I like InfoWars for some things. I really like QAnon for what they've been able to do. I kind of take from a lot of alt media sources and kind of blend them in, and use my own brain in order to find out what's really going on and what's not, and to separate the propaganda from the truth. So I think one of the problems here, though, is that as you look at this, we're looking at this from the outside looking in, and so there's a lot of information that we don't know. We can see things happening from the outside. So like 9/11, we can see things from the outside, but we don't know what's going on. We're not privy to all of the inside information. We don't know what's in the cake. We're just looking at the cake from the outside. And so it's hard to make sense of all of all the information that we do have. And we have a lot of information, and frankly, a lot of it isn't making sense, and that's kind of what Monty was saying. And that's right. A lot of it doesn't make sense. So, this is kind of how I've made sense of it, and that doesn't mean that it's right. This is just kind of where I'm at right now. I'm hoping that as time elapses, that we will have more information, and that we can make more sense of it. But this is where I'm at right now. So what we do know is that at least this is where I'm at, is that Trump is not deep state. The reason that I would ascertain that he is not deep state, if you look at the WikiLeaks, Hillary was very adamant about with the Pied Piper strategy, about getting him in there. If that was the case, that he was deep state, they wouldn't have needed to do that. They could have just thrown him in there, and he would have been the candidate of choice. He would have been the Jeb Bush candidate. then you look at the mainstream media and how they've treated him. The mainstream media is an arm of the deep state. They don't need. He wouldn't be attacking himself, and he wouldn't be tearing down himself. If you look at the power that the mainstream media has today as opposed to a year and a half ago, it is not even close. And you can chalk that directly up to Trump. And he wouldn't be calling them out all the time as fake news if he was deep state or if he was controlled by them. So just the simple fact that he has taken them down so many pegs is evidence that he is not controlled by the deep state. That doesn't mean he's not controlled. I don't know. I really hope he's not. But if he is, it's not by the deep state. And the other issue is the TPA. The TPA, the deep state, man, you know they had to hate that. And that was one of the first things they did was kill that. So if he was deep state, he doesn't kill the TPA. When he was elected, if you're aware of a lot of his campaign rhetoric, he talks like a 10th grader when he's talking to the public. So you can't rely on his words exclusively. Now, if he's making promises, he has been very, very good about keeping them. So you can tell that when he says something, he does mean it, and he will keep his word. But how he is saying things, or what he means by what he says, you can't trust that. If he's talking like a 10th grader, that's because he's talking to the public who functions on a 10th grade level. That is not because that's how he functions. This is all part of the personality that he has crafted in order to get elected, in order to whitewash the media into buying the shtick and to walk him into the election. Because if they knew what he really was, he could never have been elected. They would never have let him into the White House. And so he gave them that persona as a false front, so that he could get in. For instance, he loves to talk about the wall and the immigration issue, and there's a lot of useful idiots that have really glommed onto that. I honestly don't think that Trump really cares a ton about illegal immigrants coming over. Now, if they are sick, then he's going to care. But there are other ways to take care of that issue. You can crack down on the employers. But what he does care about is M13. And because that's become the military arm for the deep state here in the United States. And so, but you can't talk about that in public as much. And so the average person does not respond to that. But they do respond to the wall and to the immigration. So he's playing to the public and saying, oh, we need to go do this, we need to go do this. And they're like, oh, yeah, we do. Build the wall, build the wall, build the wall. And the people have really glommed onto that, where that's not why he wants the wall, and so that's not why he is selling the wall. Now, again, North Korea. The public has been put into mass panic on North Korea is going to attack with chemical weapons or with nuclear weapons. Thanks to QAnon, we know that North Korea is run by the deep state or run by the CIA. And so we know that when he's talking about, I'll take care of North Korea, he's saying, yes, we might go to war with North Korea, but he's talking about, okay, I got to clamp down here on this CIA coup here. What president, if we're talking about going to war with a country, what president flies their plane right over the country? You just don't do that. But he knew that he could because he understood what North Korea was. If we were talking about going to war with a country, you don't fly the presidential plane right over that country, but he did. So obviously there's a lot of things going on with North Korea that the public is not privy to, but Trump is. And so you have to, we're looking at it from the outside where he knows the full details. And so, yes, he says one thing, but that is not necessarily what we understand from the outside. Um, when he got elected, he really walked into a big old mess. Obama set him up with a lot of power and with way too much authority, and they are all, now they realize that, like, what have we done? Like, yeah, we told you that as you were doing it, but you still kept doing it. And they were doing it to lay the groundwork for Hillary, so that she could come in and prep for them to take over and to really grind us to a pulp, so that we would be singing in our cells next to each other. He is taking that power and now he is using it against them. So the Patriot Act was in place thanks to 9/11, and the government surveillance is in. They've got backdoors in all the devices now, thanks to the government funding of all these big corporations. Oh, by the way, Provo and Bluffdale are not the same thing. They've been storing all the data in Bluffdale, which is about 30 miles north of Provo. Provo's basically just a university town, college town. Just pick a college. You know what a college town is. That's Provo. And Bluffdale is just it's basically the last suburb of Salt Lake City. And after that, you kind of start running into other things. But yeah, Bluffdale and Provo are not the same thing at all. Anyway, William Binney had noted that there are other ways to handle the surveillance issues, and he had developed a cheaper, more effective way of handling mass surveillance, of where he could grab out all the pertinent data that would affect this person and this person and this person and so on, and he presented that to the powers that be, and they said, no, we'll just collect everything. And that's what's happening in Bluffdale. Binney has since gone over to Europe and is working on developing that, and honestly think that's part of what's happening, is that as Trump is fixing this problem over here, Binney is working on a solution over here on the other side, so that they will kind of come into play at the same time. As he's ready to dismantle one problem over here, Binney will have the next solution ready to go. The NDAA, again, big problem. It is a big problem. I wish more people were squawking about it. Gitmo is a big problem, and they were squawking about it with Obama, and they'll be squawking about it again if they start using it against them. Judicial corruption is a huge problem. It's a problem that very, very few people are talking about it, but it's something that should be talked about extensively. It's one that Trump is very well aware of, and it is one that he is slowly starting to address. Most people are only aware of it in terms of the judicial orders that go against him with the immigration bans, but it's so pervasive that it's they, for years and years and years, they were nominating people that they're puppets, and so the system is just rampant with all this corruption. And you got all these people that when they vote, they're like, yeah, we'll keep them, oh, the system sucks. It's just awful, where everybody complains that the system sucks, but yeah, they just keep supporting the same old. And the judicial corruption it doesn't get any worse, for an example of that. So he's slowly working on that, but I'm hoping that that's one thing that he's going to start working on more aggressively in 2018. The rule of law has been a complete joke, and the public is very much aware of that. Thank you, Hillary. That's one of the few good things that you have done for this country, is to blatantly point that out to anybody with a set of eyeballs that is functioning. Um, Senator Menendez in New Jersey has also been very good to point that out to the public. Except that the mainstream media has not been good about illustrating this point. But Senator Menendez sure did everything that he could to point that out. And so President Trump is very well aware that if you could have an ironclad case of fraud, of corruption, of you name it. We all know what Hillary's done and all these other things. You could have an ironclad case, and if you take it to Washington D.C., for instance, where say 93% of the people vote for Hillary, you can take it there, and you will never in a million years will she be found guilty. And so that is part of the reason that they're taking all these indictments around to these different parts of the country. Okay, you can't indict Hillary in Washington, D.C., but could you indict her in Kansas? Well, if she's done something in Kansas, yes, you could. Could you indict her in Utah or Alaska? If she's done something there, yes. And so or Texas, but they've had to be more selective on if they're going to prosecute one way, then you can't do it in Washington D.C. because you can't get a fair trial for them in these places. Even if you had ironclad evidence, you could have video evidence of them saying, yes, we're going to do this, we're going to do this, and this is how we're going to do it, and they would still find reasons to let them off because that's how it's been. So that's why, I'll get into that in a minute, but Trump is also aware of, it's been alleged that there are quite a few assassination attempts that have already occurred on President Trump, and there's the deep state coups that are very, very real. It's been alleged that the Las Vegas attack was actually an attack on President Trump. He's very well aware of all of these things, what's real and what's not. He's very well aware of what surveillance looks like when it's used against you. So it's possible that as he's talking, yeah, I like surveillance, I think it's a good thing. Well, he knows what it's like to be spied on. So I am obviously he might have said one thing at one time. I'm hoping that he's coming around to the idea that these things can be abused, and they have been abused, and so maybe he is calling attention to all of these things to get the public on board with, yeah, these things were sold to us as all, they were going to do all these great and wonderful things for us, but they haven't done all these great and wonderful things for us. So maybe we need to find another way to solve this problem. And I'm, hopefully down the road that's what's going to happen. Because he's very well aware. He knows all about dirty congressmen. If you look and see the list of congressmen that are not going to be running again, it's not a short list. You have a very long list of congressmen who want to give up cushy jobs with fat pensions and with very little work involved. Almost no chance of not winning election again. They're giving that up on their own. I would love to see I'd have to pull the numbers, but if you were to run numbers of how many congressmen voluntarily retire every year, every 2 years, and then compare that to 2018. Because I'm almost positive that it's an obscene outlier. One of the problems that President Trump has is that he knows that this is a temporary solution if things don't change at the same time. He can come in and he can undo all of Obama's legacy, but then somebody else could come in and undo Trump's legacy. So part of part of his efforts have to be undoing Obama's dirty deeds and all the deeds of the last 50 years, really. They focus on Obama, but it's not just Obama. Um, so yes, with one hand, he has to undo all of these dirty deeds, but on the other hand, he also has to open the eyes of the public. So he has to drain the swamp, and he has to red pill a lot of people. He's trying to, while avoiding a civil war. I mean, he could unleash it all and just declassify everything. Um, but would that start a civil war when people realized everything that all of these people had been doing? Would that create mass chaos? Well, he's president of the country who is trying to prevent that. Um, so he has taken the idea that he is going to use their weapons against them. These weapons that were going to be used against us, he is now using them against them. And that is exactly what you were worried about. The things that you have stated you were worried about, um, you should be, and we all should be. And part of what he's doing here is I think he's got those tools set up and pointed directly at these enemies of our country, um, so that they can be used against them, because they were going to be used against us. And so now he's got it set up where, yes, he can let Antifa run wild and then declare martial law. Or, he's using Twitter to enlighten the public and to tear down the media. Um, this is part of his 4D chess strategy. And, if you look at it in computer programming terms, it's kind of an if-then statement. One of the, he's got things set up where, okay, if we're going to go the conventional route, we can do that. We've got all these indictments set up, these sealed indictments that you've been questioning, and we're starting to get some of the judges replaced so that we can get things there, and we're starting to get people's eyes opened up and getting red pills spread all over the place, and we're working on getting executive orders and asset forfeiture so that we can take these hit these people where it hurts, so that when we prosecute, they won't come in with their army of Johnny Cochrans, so that they can just buy their way out of their dirty deeds. That is one route. But he's also aware that might not be, if that's not possible, he does have another option opposed to him. That's their if statement. Then we have our then statement, which is, okay, if that doesn't work, then we have another possibility. And he lets Antifa run wild, and he lets a few problems happen, and then he declares martial law. And then he doesn't have to deal with all these other things. He can try them with the military tribunals. And then he can run them to Gitmo or to a secret prison, and he can clear this crap out on his own and then start doing things for our best interest, whether we want them to or not. And so you see all these flight anomalies all over the country, where flights are turning around in midair. They're happening in Europe too. You see all this flight activity around Gitmo. I don't know what it means. I just know that it means something is happening. From the outside, we don't know. We just know that something is happening with the cake. I don't know. Again with Congress, somebody is really turning the screws on a lot of these people where they're opting to retire on their own, and somebody has apparently been able to gather enough evidence to present to these people so that they will go out on their own. And yet, if you look at the really big names, these aren't the people that are quitting. Chuck Schumer's not quitting. Nancy Pelosi's not quitting. Maxine Waters is not quitting. The really, really vocal people that were really coming after him, they're not quitting. So that says to me that they're going to be coming down with something worse. They weren't offered the chance to quit. And so their dirt is going to be used in a trial against them. And elections are coming soon. So I would assume that that's coming down the road a little bit for them, and so that's why they keep harping so much, is because they understand, as all their acolyte, all their little followers keep dropping out, they're left more and more to themselves, and they're starting to get very scared because they see what they're writing on the wall and they don't like it. They know what it means. Now, as far as judicial transfer orders to Gitmo, I don't know. I don't pretend to know a lot about the military. It's a valid question. Um, I would love to know more about that. I think it's a fascinating question, and maybe they were, and maybe those are sealed. I don't know. I keep asking it. Um, I think the big thing to know here is that I just don't think there was any other way for him to do this. He walked into such a big problem, and he's trying to avoid so many. He's got a very fine balancing act, and he's trying to avoid so many catastrophic issues that this is the only thing that this was the only way. Um, I if we're wrong and we all end up in cells, I will sing next to you. Although I will warn you, I do like to sing, and I don't have many fans, so that might not be a good thing for you. Um, Now, I guess the biggest question on this is how do we know? And the only suggestion I can offer on that is that time will tell. As the chessboard keeps developing, we will start seeing some pieces on the board being removed, and we will start seeing things more clearly. We will know if this is really what's happening. We will know if QAnon is really helping prepare that path for us. We'll know if Trump is eventually going to, in the long run, I think you're right, and I hope that he does. After he gets this crap cleared out of here, he should get rid of the Patriot Act, and he should get rid of the NDAA. He should get rid of mass surveillance. And once he has kind of drained out all the crap and opened up the public's eyes to, look, this is where things were heading and this is where we were going, then he can kind of hand those powers back, or get rid of them, and then hand the powers back to the next guy who will no longer have those, and can take over in a positive environment where we can start building the country and moving forward with honest congressmen and honest judicial branch, and an honest executive branch. In the meantime, he is slowly working both ends of this, where he's clearing out that debris and opening the public's eyes so that they will no longer support the rotten, corrupt uh, government that has been in place for so long. Um, I hope that's the case. We keep seeing this develop at such a rapid pace, though, that I don't think we're going to have to wait very much longer in order before we really know. Um, in the meantime, please give Christopher Walken my phone number. I would be happy to share a jar of pickles with him any day. And he's one of the few people in Hollywood that I have to say that I really do like his style. And I would be delighted to split pickles with him. So I appreciate what you're doing, Monty, and please keep doing it, and please keep challenging us, and because it does help to have the conventional questions challenged and to force us to keep thinking and about issues that we would rather not think about, that other people just seem to gloss over. So I think you're doing a very good thing there, and it is definitely appreciated. And I hope that these answers have maybe helped make sense of some of these things and put them in context that might make a little bit more sense. So, with that, I will bid you adieu and good day. Thanks.